this.
Right now, mix and match 2 of these delicious sandwiches for just $4. Breakfast at McDonald's.
And yeah, sorry that I'm doing it this way with the webcam pointing to the laptop screen, because I tried doing I'm using OBS, and I tried doing the capture via the OBS feature, but it didn't work, so this is the other way I have to do it. Well, that's a lot of packages there, GRC. Oof.
Hello YouTubers, today's our first installment of
Ray's Tech Tips. Ray, what is the first thing you look at on every pinball machine?
Line cord.
Why?
And plug. It's usually in bad shape, and it's generally an indicator of the work that's done to the rest of the machine. Although not always, but it's the first thing that you deal with when you have a machine that is electronic. It plugs into the wall. So you must pay attention to something that is actually going to be either a shock hazard or a fire hazard. It's common sense. Several examples of cords. This is what you'll find on some round cords. It's got the ground and the conductors, although it's been mishandled, but it's got damage here. If it continues, it'll pull away from the prongs and then short.
Burn your house down.
Yeah, and burn your house down. Or the fire. It's another example of what people do. They cut or break off the ground. Not a good idea. The ground is there for several reasons on different devices. On jukeboxes, the ground's important so you don't have audio hum, and so you don't get an electrical shock touching it and a neighboring device with the ground, because you'll get a 60-volt AC voltage shock.
Can you show us what that looks like?
No, it doesn't hurt that bad, but it's 60. It's half line current with no ground. You're completing the circuit by grounding through yourself. So you're getting 60 volts AC to ground to complete the missing circuit. And
we have
New Kellogg's Chocolate Frosted Flakes. They're great.
To ground to complete the missing circuit. And another thing you want to look at when you buy a machine is don't buy one like this with this.
Ouch.
Nothing good's under there. I've seen several patched cords, so my best advice is don't look at the machine first. Look at the line cord. It's important because it's simple common sense. These are examples of cords you can buy brand new. This is Pinball Resource 14-foot flat cord that goes on certain machines. It's not detachable, it solders in. And these are about $7.
$7.
$6.35 plus shipping, probably $7. This is a detachable cord.
Modern Bally Williams.
Yes, all the new WPC or any kind of game with detachable cords, including videos. It's a standard Japanese detachable end, standard 3-prong. And this is
What if your cord's about a foot and a half, 18 inches long?
Yeah, that's what this is. And the round cords go on newer devices generally. Old flat cords, old machines from 70s, 80s, early 80s had flat cords. Generally they went to round cords on your newer devices. This is a 8.5, 9-foot cord. Probably 8.5. I have several different lengths. I have 8.5, 10, 9 foot. Depends on what vendor you buy from.
Most of the pinball suppliers, I would assume.
Right, and you want a 16 gauge wire, not this. You can see the difference.
What's that? A computer cord?
Yes, and this is 18 gauge or 20.
Will work. Will overheat. Will cause problems.
Not enough. The device struggles to get amperage, and
I'll go out and get some frosted flakes right now.
It's important. This is not only thicker with the vinyl, and the reason for that diameter difference is the cord inside. The conductors, the stranded conductors are thinner. You don't want this on a pinball device or a video game or anything other than a low draw device like a computer. The 16 gauge 3 wire is what you want. That's about the different cords you're probably going to find. And the next thing you want to check is, if you really don't mind having this on your game, that's fine. But you want to look inside of it if you really want to.
Of course, if you replace the line cord, then you don't have to have that thing on the end of your game.
I'll show how it's done in a minute, but you can easily put this on just about as quick as on this.
And of course, only one of that will fit in whatever socket you're trying to plug it in.
Yeah, this isn't bad though. This is one of the ones that doesn't take a lot of space on an adapter or
a strip, plug strip, yeah.
Plug strip, because it's flat. These will actually go next to each other. The round ones will not.
You know, we were at that auction and I was trying to plug in games and I was ripping out people's stuff who had were taking up 2 spots with that junk.
The round ones will. This won't. This is made by Hubble. These things are like $9 a piece. They're very nice the way they break away and split. It's easy to do a nice job.
I'll put it on eBay. I'll get
However,
$6 for it.
This person left half the conductors and not even going here. And the ground, I don't think they really have anything hardly going there. And it is loose.
Oh my.
So people that do this kind of work don't generally do quality. You're going to find this, and then they close it up.
So you can see it.
Right, and it's doing something in here. Even though this is made for a round or flat cord, it's not going to clamp this very well. It's going to, when you yank cords out, people generally don't do that. They yank it like here. Well, that's what happened here. They probably did this okay in the beginning, but through fatigue, this happens. So that's why you really don't want to deal with these anyway, because a molded cord is much cleaner, nicer, and yeah, it doesn't take up a line strip. So with that.
Okay, this is really difficult to do. Show us how it's done. What are we looking at here?
Well, first you want to remove the old cord. So you can.
What is that?
Either cut or unsolder. This is a surge suppressor, line conditioner. It's on all pinball machines. It really doesn't matter too much. It's to prevent an over voltage to come through and go into the machine to a certain point. Okay. They're very cheap devices. They don't work very well. This red device here is called a varistor, and it's rated in joules. And what that means is it's supposed to clamp a surge that comes in along with this.
So when you see again, it's got all this black soot here.
That burned up, this shorted out, got hit by lightning or some kind of surge. And if this goes bad, it will generally short and blow the main fuse, which is located here.
No, we don't even want to look at.
No. The same guy that did this line cord.
Side note: here's the biggest hack. Me too. We'll come back to that next time. Line cord.
Lobster Fest won't last, so don't miss these 10 new and classic dishes. Only at Red Lobster.
Me too. We'll come back to that next time. Line cord.
Yeah, that's neat. Really. The way to put a line cord in is to unsolder the 2 points and the ground, which is the 3rd point, and then remove the cord and feed it back in. There are 2 conductors to AC, and to keep your devices all the same, you want to pay attention to that. In this case, black goes to the blue lead, so this is your black, which is your line hot, and neutral is white on AC, and that's the other side. Now on a line cord, most people don't understand it because they're not electricians. You have to be an electrician. There's a flat cord has no black or white, so really people they look at this and don't know what to do with it. Round cords do have colors, black and white, so that's easy. All right, there is ribbing on one side of this line cord, and the other.
We're in high def. We can see that.
Right, the other side is smooth, no texture, no marking.
Okay.
Okay. The ribbed side is your neutral, and the smooth side is your black.
Hot.
Yeah, hot. And that's how you go about putting that on. You put your smooth side of your cord here. Whenever you do a device that has this unmarked AC, it'll still work. You can mix them up. If you get them backwards, that's fine, except if you have 2 pinball machines next to each other and you touch both side rails with them off, doesn't matter. If they're plugged in, off, you'll get a shock.
Wow!
Yeah, about ready to solder in the cord. You want to heat up a soldering iron.
I see electrical tape down here too. Is that?
It's factory.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder.
They did that factory on Stearns.
We're working on an early solid state stern here, Sea Witch. Which, by the way, is coming to the end of its restoration.
You want to feed it through before you strip it so you don't keep bending the conductors over.
Okay. Till it comes through the standard spot.
Yep. You can feed about 6 to 8, 10 inches a foot in, and then it'll come down at you. You don't even have to take the back glass off. You pull it down and you put it in through the cord relief, which you don't even have to unbolt. The factory restraint was just to simply tie the cord into a knot. Leave a little bit extra. And then you want to strip your conductors back. You can start with whichever one you want.
So this is so simple to do.
You want to twist the conductors.
What?
Prepare them.
Why is it that 9 out of 10 pins that come in here have the same cord that you just took off?
I don't know. It's easy to do. You need solder flux, which helps melt the solder easier on heavy conductors like this. And this is a 25 watt pencil iron. It's nice to have a 35 or more. Some people use a soldering gun, which is high wattage, 100 watts. That'll work good on stuff like this also because it's heavy. But if you have flux and you have a hot pencil, I hang my pencils like this while I'm waiting for them to warm up, and these things get super hot when you do this. So this is actually probably, you can see it's purple. This is probably putting out at least 700, 800. This is putting out as much as a soldering gun right now as far as heat, if you hang it upside down. It's a little trick you can use, and you can use this for circuit board work in an emergency out in the field, or heavy stuff, if you do this. And this is just regular 60-40, and it is not a regular diameter. I like the 080, the 80 thousandths, because it melts quicker. You don't have such a big, because that takes heat to melt solder, and if you don't want the big solder, the small stuff is better for this. So those are the things you're going to need, and of course wire strippers and side cutters. You want to tin your conductors first, and you want to leave like a lump on there, because the more you have here, the easier it places, so you don't melt the vinyl away or burn your fingers. You can get off and on easy. A lot of people struggle with this.
Intuit Giants maximize your refund with the power of TurboTax and QuickBooks.
And this is about the right length you're going to want. So you can put the ground on first. And you're going to want your black, hot.
Which is, again, the non-ribbed section on a flat cord.
Right. That's it. And that's what you do to replace a line cord, to make your device safe so you don't either get shocked or cause a fire. Because after all, these are wood and they're painted. if there ever was a fire, it would not stop. You'd not be able to put it out. You hear about fires with space heaters all the time in the wintertime in cold environments, whereas people plug in too much, they overdraw line cords, and vinyl is plastic and does catch on fire, and when it's hard to put out like tire or like a rubber tire. So the bottom line is you pay attention to the line cord. It's the first thing that comes into your device. But since this fits so loose, you don't need this. But normal T-molding process, you need a hammer to get it in. You can't press it in by hand.
Gotcha.
And that'll give you the smooth effect. You don't want to hit it hard or you're going to have divots in it. The purpose of the thing is to look smooth and clean.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the chrome, when you're done, you peel off the blue shipping coating and you get this.
Nice.
And that's going
Isn't
to,
that sharp?
yeah, that'll look far superior to what was on here. And you can do one machine for probably $40 or so, plus your labor.
Not
So
bad
it's
at all.
relatively cheap.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that includes the entire length. It comes in 25-foot lengths. The regular black or other colors come in 250-foot rolls, and that's the cheapest way to buy it. That goes down to way low.
So where could you get something like that?
You get it at Arcade Shop.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And it's in Moultrie, Georgia. It's on the website arcadeshop.com. He's one of the suppliers for it. There are a lot of others, but he's the most popular, as he has probably a dozen or more colors
Awesome.
and widths.
Very
Some
good.
of your Nintendo games use 5/8, the small stuff. You can get that there. And he sells kits. He'll sell a kit that they pre-measure it, and he'll know just what you don't have to buy a whole roll. You can buy a kit for your game, and that's even less yet.
Nice.
That's this week's tech tip, and I think it does a nice job for games.
Great. Thank you,
that a
Ray.
homeowner can do.
Awesome. So what's on the list for next week?
Well, next week we'll probably go back and do some pinball tech tips.
Oh, cool.
We'll cover one that starts from the line cord in. We did the first of. We'll probably go into the Bally specific transformer rectifier board.
Awesome. Can't wait. Thank you, Ray.
That'll tie into the line cord thing that we did, so people can see what that process is supposed to be. That's the next step into one of those old games.
Cool. So when are these going to be done?
These should be done shortly. Cosmetic work is almost done. I have one board to put in here for the steering wheel control, and I fixed the motor. The magnet came loose. Other than that, the computers are done, as you can see. This will be the last cosmetic touch. So probably, I'd say in an upcoming week or two.
Awesome.
We did more than we're planning to do on these to make them a little nicer, because they had a good start. They were a route neglected piece.
Mm.
So we were making them a little nicer for a homeowner that wants something nice, not just a auction type quality game.
Right.
And then people do not do this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cool.
yeah, stay tuned. A week or two, we'll probably film these. We'll see you. Take care.
New England.
Choose transmission.
Automatic.
So Melanie, do you actually do any work here?
I was just play games. I do some work.
350Zs.
Choose upgrade.
Nitrous.
We're going to get an example of how you actually drive.
No. You'd be really scared to drive anywhere near me.
She's not kidding, by the way.
Ready, set, go!
Actually pretty good at this, right?
Yours, yeah, also. It's hard to be good early in the game.
See if we can get our first place. Or not.
Probably not anymore. I try.
Put your name up there.
Me?
Sure. Here it comes.
What's your name?
How do we go up?
Left. Left. Turn left. Uh-oh.
How do I select? Press gas, choose. Oh, and
Oh. Were those other people working too, or what? See everybody next week.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.
Join the circus.
This is Charlie not coughing because he took Delsum. This is Charlie not coughing while not waking Zeus. And this is Charlie not coughing while getting really into Nana's party. Nothing lasts longer than Delsum for powerful cough relief.
Hello everybody, welcome to week 3 of Tech Tips. This week we are working on, Ray, tell them about it.
It is a Stern Lightning, which is similar to Bally solid states in the early 80s. It's the power transformer rectifier board.
Okay, and what does it do?
It takes voltages from the transformer and converts them to direct current so the electronics can use the voltages. It converts transformer voltages into 5 different voltages on the rectifier board. Some of them pass through as AC, some get rectified with bridge rectifiers to direct current. 12 volts, 5 volts, and such.
Okay, and this this board is present on what generation of machines? All machines, or?
It's present on the 80s machines Bally and Stern made. They had 2 versions of the rectifier board. They later changed the name to transformer. Well, this is the transformer rectifier board. They changed the name to auxiliary power supply, but it's a similar board. It mounts in a cabinet, like this one. Most of these small ones, except for some Sterns, mounted in the back box. Stern mostly did their rectifier boards in the cabinet. Bally, when they used these small ones, put it in the back box.
So on the modern machine, this is the power supply board.
Right, that's correct. It's equivalent to that, yes.
Okay, well, what are we looking at here? What is this monstrosity?
This is what somebody did that they thought would fix their problem when addressing the bridge rectifiers. These small transformer rectifier boards, unlike the new bigger ones, used small, they were made by a company called Vero, and they're 8 amp bridge rectifiers. This game, like most of these games, draw close to 8 or more amps in some circuits, so those things were really substandard for the use. So you want to put a 35 amp bridge rectifier in a device like this. This guy was trying to do this. He just did it a little peculiar. He used, well, this is 14 gauge Romex household wire, and then he used 12 gauge over on this side.
This looks like the kind of workmanship we see from those guys.
Yeah, that's mostly what you'll see, because they don't have parts availability, and they don't have a truck to go out to get parts. They don't buy parts. They reuse old parts out of machines that might be better than this.
Might be.
Yeah, they avoid buying parts. Alright, well, let's dig in. I'm going to remove the board. It's mounted with 1/4 inch screws. It usually has 3. In this case, I guess the guy did away with them. It's on standoffs. This is a heat sink. To do it, this is the original board had 3 of these little Vero 8 amp rectifiers, and the guy cut them off. And then what he did was he mounted the 35s on the back of the plate here. Well, actually, one's a 35, and this one, I don't know, it might be a 20. He used what he had, which is what so many of these people do. Even some of the businesses that recondition pinballs or say, they use what they have. They don't order new parts. They're resistant to ordering parts. I go the other way with that kind of thing. I think, why spend the time and waste it?
Well, we don't send them out like this because we don't want to go visit the.
No, I don't.
We don't want to go visit this machine again for anything more than occasional maintenance items, not catastrophic failures from using stuff like this.
It is why we pick up all their customers, because they're failed work. But not to dwell on that. What you have to do. This is the new board. This is made by Jim Knight, Rotten Dog product. Comes with a schematic for reference in the future. This is what the new board looks like. Jim went away from the original design, which was substandard anyway, and he kept most of it, the architecture the same, but he does use 35 amp bridge rectifiers. These are thinner ones, new generation electronics, especially when you're dealing with diodes, capacitors. it often gets miniaturized or small, but they are 35 amp bridges. This one is heatsink because it gets a little hotter. It is the solenoid bridge. But that's what the new board looks like. It will go in place without the heatsink. You clean all this off, and the board has its same mounting as the factory. And the next step would be to take the wiring. I have to improve what this guy did here. Take the wiring and go onto the new board. And the new board has little sections where the wires go. And they're marked E12, 10. They're marked the same actually as the Bally board was. You got your E numbers, E11, 10, 12, and those are where the corresponding wires will solder onto. They're through wires, so there's a couple ways to go about it. You can cut wire off. You don't want to cut too much, it makes it too short. You can cut wire off. They're all color coded and they're all different colors, so you can't really mix them up. But it does get confusing if you're doing this for the first time, because you can't really cut one wire and then take the board and solder it on, because you'd be stretching wires across, and it's kind of confusing. So if you cut about a ½ inch off of wire and leave the color exposed, you'll be able to tell, well, this went here. That's the best way to approach this if you're new at this. And when you cut your wire off, you're going to want to well, that's interesting.
What do you got there?
Yeah, it's another handy thing.
What's that, telephone pole wire?
Yeah, that's, at least they use stranded on this, but it's like way oversized. It's 10 gauge wire. Most of the voltages you're dealing with in these machines are low, and the amperage isn't really that high. Wire sizes vary from 18 gauge. Very seldom do you see 16. And it goes down to 24 for switches and such optos, but most of your power wiring is 16 or 18 gauge. There's nothing bigger than 16 gauge in most of the areas here. So when you run into something like this, you have to replace it. But with this all cut, now I have my wire references to start putting this back in. And you do it one at a time, and then you can hold the board at the same configuration so that you'll see that the red wire will go third fuse over. These are fuses here, you can see, and then here's your fuses. Well, third fuse over there is where that wire goes, and then you just get your right wire color, your red, and match it and solder it on. And that's how you approach this type of thing. Of course, now this is being held on to this guy. Rig thing, I got to take this off, and the main fuse holder has been compromised. It's not really supposed to be. Evidently this guy had one fuse, the main fuse. I don't know what this was.
I hear he got a job over at...
Yeah, probably. He'll work there until he...
They'll send him out on a service call, and he'll take the boards out of the machine.
Never show back up.
And then they'll fire him.
Yeah.
And then the customer is going to, well, they'll call them on their 6 lines. And then when they don't get a resolution there, then they'll call you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the scenario.
Again.
It's a common
and again.
Yeah, common scenario.
And again.
It's a shame. You got to learn from doing. You know, just.
You know, the first time I heard that story, I didn't believe it. But about the third time I heard that story, yeah.
Yeah, it's been more than 3 times. I've run into it and ignored it out in the field. I don't really have time to address that kind of
Well, yeah, well, that's
complaint from a customer.
yeah, well, it's not your business.
No.
Their problems with those guys.
Yeah, they do complain. So it's a shame. You got to learn from what you're doing. You don't. If you can't learn and go forward, then you're gonna stagnate and go backwards.
Yeah, well, a lot of these places are just holding on by in the process of closing.
Yeah, it's probably about right. It's a hard business. It's a hard industry. It demands a lot of time for the hours that you get back in labor hours.
Well, and of course, it gets harder when you've already got a ruined reputation. You can't ever get back from that.
No, it's true.
Well, guess let's cut away here, and you can rip the rest of that wire out of there, and we'll show them how you're going to solder some of the wires on, maybe if we get to that point.
Okay.
And we'll be back shortly. Okay, Jim. Are you a GRC employee?
No, I'm not.
Why are you here, and how is it that you know Ray?
I know Ray because I started collecting pinball machines back in 1999. He was a customer of mine where I work at Granger, and he came in one time picking up stuff for Game Room Warehouse. I saw he was picking something up for them and got his business card since he was working there, and told him I had a Terminator 2 just in case I needed it fixed, and then just picking up other machines over the years, and initial purchase they wouldn't work, or after time it wouldn't work. Always had him come fix my machines for me.
How many machines do you have?
21.
Would you let anybody else work on your machines?
Oh, hell no.
What about me?
Sometimes. But I always would trust Ray. Ray's great.
So you volunteer here a lot because you enjoy the pinball machines, and I assume you like to learn the ins and outs of what makes them work and how to work on them yourself, because you don't want to rely on Ray for the basic repairs.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from being here, and also just hanging out with Ray at times, and you guys help me learn a lot, so I don't have to figure out small stuff bugging him all the time.
But you're a pinball guy, and you're around pinball a lot. What do we do differently here than what you're accustomed to seeing elsewhere?
Attention to detail, making sure everything is fixed and working right. And gameplay, actually playing the game and dialing it in so it plays the way it should play, instead of just being put back together and not played and tested and made sure it plays fun and smooth.
So there's a benefit to being able to play the games. That way you can you know what where the orbits are supposed to land on the flippers, and yeah, there's definitely a benefit to dialing in a pin.
Rather than use your hand to throw balls.
Yeah, that doesn't accomplish much. That being said, anyone in the market for a top shelf attention to detail fixed right pin, where do they go?
Game Room Collectibles.
And if you bought your machine elsewhere and it's not working, where do you go?
Somewhere that has an orange sticker on it.
No.
Oh, you go to Ray to get it fixed. White area repair, absolutely.
And finally, if you insist on paying retail prices for wholesale quality auction junk bubblegum together, complete with a gimmicky 5-year, 5-foot non-warranty, where do you go for that? Oh, see, we can't say the name. We're gonna put a picture over that one. We're gonna put the picture over. We're gonna put the firework over top of that. All right, we're back with Ray again. Progress update. What have you done while I was walking away doing something else?
Cleaned this area up so it doesn't look like it was uncared for.
Okay.
Now I'm dealing with the wiring, and I'm not sure I want to really leave spliced wiring because I don't know what somebody did here. They were nice enough to match colors, that's neat. But why did they do that?
Well, you're going to have to look, aren't you?
I got it.
Oh, by the way, we carry this with us at all times. You never know who you're going to encounter out there in this coin-op stuff. Identical?
Identical, yeah. Stern had their name put on it.
Yeah.
and they call it a T100 to
Probably came from the same place.
yeah, they had the same manufacturer. They did some minor things to avoid copyright infringement, but if you compare it to a Bally board, it is identical. Identical. There's no change. No, nothing different on it. They might have moved a resistor in and called it something different, but regardless of that, this board fits Bally Stern, and it's called a power supply rectifier board. Some people call it a transformer rectifier board because it feeds right from the transformer.
And that's available from Marco, I would assume.
Marco doesn't do Jim Knight's products anymore. He comes out with his own
okay, so
pin score products. Arcade
similar
shops, Bay Area arcade shops, little shop of games. Yeah, there's all the mainstream. Yeah. There's also another brand out that I like as well, and it's called Pinhead, and they're starting to make stuff like this, and they're nice products. They have LEDs on here to tell you whether a fuse is blown or not. It's really neat. Yeah. And they make both products. They make the big board as well as the little ones.
And they're affordable. That's the cost of that unit is superseded by the amount of time it would take you to recon one of the old ones anyway.
It's well under $100.
Yeah. Now, unless you're a hobbyist and you got 4 or 5 hours to throw at that old board to be left, what are you going to do? Replace everything on it?
No, some of the tracing is burned off. It's not repairable. No, it wouldn't be worth saving. And why would you for the price? Plus, you're saving something that was never designed right anyway.
Well, I'll show you what we can do with that later after you get your wire references off of it.
Yeah. They put small bridge rectifiers, which were substandard for the use of the machine. I mean,
chuck it in the bin.
They did what they could do to get production going. They really didn't investigate a lot of the stuff. Technology has taught people learning things off of what didn't work to make something better.
Learn stuff? What?
No, and that's what we do on a daily basis here, and you on the road. We don't claim to know it all, but
no, it's a learning process. It'll go on. You don't ever stop learning. And a new procedure or a new part comes out, you learn what it is. If it's better, more efficient, if it makes sense, you do it. You don't dwell on anything old. You don't attempt to reuse old products, old parts. It's a dead end. It just causes you more work.
Well,
doesn't provide reliability, period.
I don't think we're going to sit through the rewiring process of this whole mess. It looks like...
No, and I want to do it because I don't want to leave this in. I don't really care much when I see stuff like that.
So I guess we're looking at probably an hour and a half worth of rewiring there.
Yeah, right. That's about right. Yeah, I don't want to leave that in. I really don't. The guy at least soldered it. I give him that, but I had no idea why he cut it.
Okay, well, next week we'll show you the wrap up of this job, and
the finished product.
We'll take some photos of it, soldered to the new board and all that as a lead into what do we feel like doing next week? Something interesting.
I think next week we're going to get into flippers because that's a core product.
Flippers.
Yeah, that's a core device in the machine.
As a player, I hate a weak flipper.
Yeah, and there's a lot of aspects to it, but we're going to get into flipper angles, shaft play, hubs, and basic parts, and things that you can recognize that are going to wear out and that should be done to make the game better.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Oh, you haven't seen the See Which Playfield. thanks to Felix. No paint pens here. Looking forward to having this one done, Ray.
It's a nice machine.
Get to work.
I like it.
See everybody next week. Thanks a lot.
Nice. Thanks for watching.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.
Join the circus.
Hi everybody, welcome to, what is this, week 4 of Tech Tips? We were going to do flippers, but Ray brought down this thing. What is this, Ray?
It's a Hickok tube tester from the 50s. And it's what they used to use to test radio, television, and jukebox tubes.
Now, you were involved in the design of this piece before it came out?
No. This was what used to be state-of-the-art electronics in the day, when there were just tubes. It has a paper roll inside with all your tube type numbers over here, and you just roll to the right one and you make your settings. It covers probably a couple hundred tubes. How it all got started was we were going to list some speed control units for Seeburgs. We have a solid state one here, and it's a TASU2, and it's capable of making the jukebox play 33 1/3, and it controls the speed as well to 45s. This fit in probably the later Seeburgs, like the AQ160 and so forth. This was the earlier tube model that fit a few of the same models, only this is the tube version. They're pinned out and they're plugged the same way. You could actually use either one. And this one has tubes to control the speed. Does the same thing. This is an ASU one. It's the earlier version. What we were doing was just picking new stuff to list on eBay, and I thought this would be some neat stuff to put on there because I have several of these. And I got involved in testing the tubes because the 6L6GC is a rare tube. It's mostly for speed control. This is used in the jukebox amplifier. There's a pair of them, but they're not GCs. So the matched pair is not as accurate for amplification. You don't need the accuracy as you do for speed control. So what we got started here was I had a tube tester upstairs, Mike didn't bring me, and I thought I'd warm it up and use it. It's been a while since I played with it. I bought it some years ago, and I use it to test tubes occasionally. And this here was something to test it with, and that's what we're doing.
So you know how to use this thing?
Yes. First,
you know, you're one of about 10 people left in the world.
Yeah.
That makes you great granddaddy Ray.
Yeah, that's a shame. You get old.
Okay, well, show us what we're doing here.
Well, when you select...
Where's the USB port?
There is nothing like that.
That really is paper in there. Huh?
Yes, it is. You go to your tube. In this case, it's a 6J6, which is designated on the tube, or 6L6, sorry. 6L6. 6L6 and then GC is underneath it. The GC designates, I guess, a higher quality tube than a regular 6L6 with no GC. But anyway, you put your tube in the correct socket and it warms up. You set your dial to what the selectors and indicators tell you here, which is the selectors are here, and there's these knobs, and that's this JR 5347-2, and then your filament voltages. That's pretty critical before you turn the machine on or press P4 actually, but your filament voltage has to be right or you'll burn the tube out because it goes up to 75 volts, and this runs at 6.3 volts.
Okay.
Yeah. So before you turn it on, you set your machine up. But you set it up according to the panel here, and then you find the appropriate test. And
what's this line voltage thing?
A line voltage is when you first turn the machine on, there's a adjust here. And you want to, because this thing is based on voltages for accuracy of test, you want to set your line voltage up first. That's right, Mike. So you know how to use this.
Yeah.
Line voltage is
I was briefed.
An indicator in the center, and you hold the line voltage down, and you use this dial to make it go back and forth.
Okay, so you're really, what you're doing is you're calibrating here.
Preliminary, yes.
Because this actually gives you a very accurate reading of what's going on.
Yeah, and the tube will show good, bad, or in the middle. I mean, they take a little bit to warm up, probably about a minute. You don't just put a cold tube in and hit the button and say, well, it's bad. You let it warm up, you hit your correct test button, which is P4, and it goes right up to good. And that's at the far end of good, so.
Okay, well, for the eBay listing, that is a tested good tube.
Correct. And you take it out and you put your next one in. This is the other GC tube. Where is it? 6L6 GC.
Yeah, I can barely see that.
Yeah, that's because it's...
There's a Seeberg marking on that thing.
That's correct. It's a Seeberg RCA. These were made for Seeberg by RCA. The reason for that marking is Seeberg wanted these to be a little more accurate for their jukeboxes, especially in speed control units. So they contracted RCA to make tubes for them. Higher quality tubes.
How in the world do you know that?
Well, I just found over the years information from jukebox guys. Currently, tubes made in Russia are still produced. Here's another tube that tests identical to that right there at the same mark. So this is a very good pair. Hard to find. Tubes are still currently made in Russia, but they're of low quality. They do work, but you won't get a good reading. You'll get maybe in the question mark area. And they waver when they warm up rather than stay solid. So if you're restoring a jukebox and it's important quality-wise, then you want to get an RCA or Sylvania tube.
Neat stuff.
Yeah, it is. This actually works fine. This is a Model 534 Hickok tube tester. And it's a nice piece of equipment. To last this many years, the quality of this in this, pretty neat.
Well, most of our viewers, I think, are pinball guys, but
this is a different side.
Yeah, for the most part, pinball guys generally appreciate the auxiliary things like this, as long as they're your age.
Yeah, I go into a lot of game rooms and people are diverse anymore. They like a little bit of everything. I don't see that they're based on one device. I see interest based on all kinds of different devices. In fact, most of my game rooms have jukeboxes, a few videos, and pins. People have more interest in pins nowadays for a lot of reasons, but a lot of these other devices, they're still around. Shuffle alleys,
yeah,
so forth. Thanks for watching the video. We always have something peculiarly interesting.
Next week.
See you next week.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.
Join the circus.
take care of business. Let Office Depot Office Max take care of you. And this week, shop our paper event and save on Boise case paper for just $29.99. Plus, get your Office Depot paper subscription. Subscribe at OfficeDepot.com/subscriptions.
Okay, folks, welcome to week 5 of Ray's Tech Tips. Today we're going to be talking about, tell them, Ray.
Flippers, how to rebuild them.
Okay.
What parts are needed? New parts.
Do you have parts?
Yes.
Show us some parts, would you?
New parts.
Well, okay, we've seen these.
Okay, I guess we're going to be rebuilding valleys. Several drawers of coils. These happen to be the valley coils. We're going to need 11 629s, which is what goes in the Terminator 2 we're rebuilding. These are more coils for working devices like slingshots, out holes, and ball kickers and such. These are mostly Valley Williams. Early and late.
I saw some Capcoms in there.
Yep. Very few. These are early Williams and Gottliebs. Here getting into some Daddy's flipper coils. These are just Gottlieb coils, crossover charts.
My lord, how often do you encounter a coil that you don't stock?
Not too often. I keep adding to it. You have to have them, coils. Coils get exercised as they get used, and the varnish windings you see here shrink and contract, shrink and expand, and then that rubs off the varnish, the shellac. And contrary to belief, these are not bare wires, and they have a coating on them. As these things get used, they expand and contract, and then it rubs its own coil.
And then it shorts.
Yes, and then the ohms, which are readings across the coils here. This is a dual coil. That's why there's 3 terminals. There's a pair of large ones for the power stroke of the flipper, and then there's a thin one, and then it goes to the middle pole for your hold. So there's 2 different windings in here.
And of course, it won't generally fail all of a sudden. It'll fail slowly, and
right.
You'll just lose performance.
Yeah, you definitely lose performance, and then eventually
you'll get a dead short at some point.
Yeah, you'll blow a fuse or ruin a flipper control board. Coils are cheap. They're under 20 bucks a piece. Most of them are even under $15 a piece. Average machine takes 2. It's good assurance. As these age, the ohmage goes down from new, which is around 4.5, 5 ohms, down to 2 and 3 ohms. And as soon as you get below 2, you're going to have problems.
Okay.
These are flipper parts for repairs that just need a broken part, that don't need a rebuild. Suppose you had a fairly new link and you just had a connecting bracket break. I carry individual parts.
But more often than not, you do full rebuilds because it's all shot.
Yeah, because nobody really. These are all rebuild kits. You get one of these for each rebuild kit. And this is, I threw a lot out. I don't have any room anymore, but there must be 100.
What size is that? I'm going to put those on eBay. Lot of 150 Allen key size, whatever size that is.
I'm not sure. I think it's 5/16. Anyway, there's more flipper parts up here. Individual parts, sleeves, hubs. New hardware, because the hardware is always
wrong.
Yeah. And then there's some roll pins for individual repair, and then you got Valley and Gottlieb use these springs to take up the play between the coil and the end stop. on some of their machines. Williams never did that. They machined it and made it close enough they didn't lose that. Gottlieb did not, neither did the early Bally's. If you don't put that in, the coil bangs around back and forth.
Lose power.
Sloppy, yeah, lose power. Any play and any of that linkage at all, any movement, other than what is there to make it pivot or go straight, is going to take power away from the flipper.
Okay, well, we're doing a full rebuild here, I'm assuming, based on the machine that I saw.
And again, here's rebuild kits from here down for Data East, Bally, Williams. The Gottliebs I'll show you back there. And we're going to be doing a WPC, so these are the individual kits I get. There's drawers full. Each one does a game.
Or a pair.
Up two flipper, right. Pair flippers. And this particular one is for these games, Williams and Bally.
Looks like a Steve Young pinball resource kit.
Yeah. And this
Flip 05, okay.
Yeah. That's the Williams Flip 05 kit. And this is 1980 through 91. We're doing a Terminator 2, so that is a 91 game. This would be the flipper kit for it.
Okay.
These are Flip 05s. This is a Marco kit, and this would be for the same thing as Williams is offered by Pinball Resource. This is Flip 01. This fits the old stuff. Mostly EMs here, although it comes into some solid states the last 2 years or so here. 67 through December 79. And you can see the difference. They're using the fiber metal link instead of plastic. Different constructed kit. The end stops are different. The hubs are different. They're longer out at the end. There's differences. You can't cross one over to the other. And then for the later
but you
games,
can. I've seen parts from 80 different types of kits in these things.
Yeah, we'll see that when we go inside.
Flip 06 modern.
Yeah, so basically these kits are, 1, 5, and 6 covers all the machines. There is no 3 or 4, by the way.
Okay.
This will cover from 92, where that leaves off, to 99, last pin made, basically. Cactus Canyon, Monster Bash, through there.
Okay. What about the new Sterns? Are they doing kits for those as well? Or?
Yeah. New Sterns. Our Data East Sterns. Segas are in here. I have extra plates because sometimes screws break off in these. They tend to, for some reason, Sega and Stern was Loctite in these quite a bit. And when you go to take anything off, even a hub, you break off screws.
And of course, you can fix that, but not very well in the field.
Right. These are the kits offered by Marco, and these will rebuild Data East Segas, and this was when they used the plastic thing as end of stroke trip.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is the solid metal link they had. You can see it's billet steel.
Neat.
Instead of stamped bent over steel. Everybody had a different opinion on things, I guess.
And they all stopped.
Yeah, they were all wanting. This would be a Stern kit. You can see it's stamped, folded over steel. Has a billet center, but they started to do some of this. This will fit your Sterns and later Segas. This is for Data East. So this is what the kit would look like for that. The coils are back there, and then you have individual parts as well here, end of strokes. Their hubs are different than Williams. They have reliefs for the screws here. You got to use that. You cannot use a Williams hub, which is totally circular. It's the same dimension, but you have to have these hole reliefs in the hub.
Or it'll be in there crooked.
It won't work, yeah. Why you can't fit it in there.
Or you can take a pair of dikes and cut it so that it's...
Also, end stops are different. You can see the hole diameter is way different than Bally Williams.
Okay.
You cannot make this hole bigger easily. This is a grade 8 forged part. If you go to use a drill on it, you're going to lose your drill. Because this stuff is hardened steel. That's why it takes the banging. This is not mild steel.
Right.
So you're not going to do it. Plus the plate is physically bigger. It's a 16th or 8th inch bigger.
Now if that breaks, you can just weld it back together, right?
Yeah, sure. like we see.
I see that every day.
Anyway, that's an overview of parts.
Okay. Obviously.
While others may keep trying, no bunny knows Easter better than Cadbury.
Anyway, that's an overview of parts.
Okay. Obviously, we're going to need probably more than likely flipper bats.
These are for early Bally's. They're specific. Here you have more kits. Early Bally solid states. In this case, it's Flip-O-One does. Well, Steve wasn't sure. Early years.
Really don't know. Yeah, through Flicker.
Through 12 of 74. Flicker is an early EM game. Flip-O-Ones are very old kits. You notice the hub diameter is different and it's smaller. And their links are this steel.
Not very big.
No, a lot different. And then you've got Flip-O-4. You're coming into the years mostly people are familiar with. This is electronic solid state. Rolling Stones through Truck Stop. So it's 80 through 88. They changed a bit. Their hubs got bigger. They're not the same as Williams. The top part's longer, bottom part's longer.
No, so those are the roller ones and goofy things.
These are inlines, yeah. And then they have the brackets, the bell cranks, and then the end stops. It's a whole kit. You put in all of this. They even give you hardware. Put in end of strokes, everything.
Nice.
When you rebuild, you use it all. That's a Flip-O-4. This is an 03. This is 75 through 80. This was a transitional period from EMs to solid states. Much like this kit, only they have fiber links instead of the inline.
Well, Steve does a nice job of putting those kits together.
Yeah, he does. And he also offers a mini kit. If you really don't want to do the whole rebuild and you just want to freshen it up, you get end stops and you get armatures is what these are called. You get hardwares and you get return springs. You don't do end of stroke switches. You don't do hubs, you know. So he offers a little mini kit. They're a lot cheaper. Most machines are in need of this. If you've already done this and you play your game a lot, then you just freshen it up a bit.
Yes.
That's the common sense about doing the mini kit over the full kit.
And the kits save you a lot of time in the field because you need everything. And what do you want to do? Try to figure. You go to the manual well, of course your experience tells you what you need, but you want to go through 18 cases of stuff.
Right, you don't want to bring 30 pounds of drawers of
including screws and hardware and all that other stuff.
Speaking of hardware, this is what most of these guys don't carry. This is all game-specific hardware to arcade machines, down to nylon stop.
Yeah, stop nuts. Okay, yeah.
So this is all unique and special sizes.
Little short eights.
Yes, this is not just something you go to a hardware store and buy. These are all game-specific. You have screws with retaining lock washers on them. You won't find that in a hardware store. And these don't come off. You want to have this because if you're needing a lock washer, you're going to have to...
I stepped on it.
Yeah, you're going to have
I'll step on something else later.
You're going to have it retained. If you try to hold all this while you're putting it together, it's nice to have this retained. It's a little incidental that makes a difference while you're in there. So.
Okay, let's go see what we're working on. I think we still need bats. Do you have flipper bats on this truck?
Flipper bats are here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't had one of those in a long time.
Drawer here. I have unmarked. I've got...
Unmarked would go on what, a modern Bally?
Yeah, unmarked is if you don't really
care. If you got a Theater of Magic or something, that gets an unmarked, right?
If you don't care that, you know, like, all right, there's the W. Williams trademark stamped on it. If you don't care about that, the unmarked or what the unmarked were made for is if a guy is on the road with parts and can't afford to have this,
the correct stuff.
This.
That East, yeah.
Capcom.
Yeah, sure.
Specialty. He could just use unmarked and just have two colors and move on. It's practical for a repair person that
maybe a route guy.
Yeah, that's correct. That doesn't have the money to or care about specific. So in this case, we're going to use
working on a Williams.
white W. that'll be our Terminator 2.
We could
and
put
of
those
course,
scared stiffs bats on it. That'd be neat.
this is the second drawer.
Gottlieb's. Oh, yeah, Gottlieb's.
Gottlieb shells for System 80s and System 1s, and then this is System 3s. They have the, they break once in a while. The welded shaft assembly. These are Bally welded shafts. These are the shells for Bally's are here. They're different in Gottlieb. They're flat across.
So you got the black Bally's.
Yeah. And then these are early Williams and Stern. These are Stern. I had early Williams in here as well. Early Williams were changeable. They weren't always molded on the shaft, and that's what.
That's for what?
That's a
Sea Witch? Would Sea Witch take that?
Right. I have short ones. And I have color ones.
Those are aftermarket.
That
never went on a game, did it?
Now, these were made by several companies. Bay Area is one of them.
Yeah.
These are blood red for Dracula. Then I have your special old EM.
Yeah.
And more special old EM. And then I even have...
you got the banana flippers,
yeah.
nice.
This is what I was talking about for the Williams. It used the shell similar to this, of course curved for this, but it went in like this. And Stern copied this off Williams. They didn't copy Gottlieb's because Gottlieb's are way different. First off, the thing has holes in it, and the shaft length is way different.
Sure.
But this parallels Williams in length and design. Williams was short to change from a changeable flipper and start molding like early Bally. You know, this is the same bat, only this is changeable and this is not. Bally started to do this instead of the extra cost of what it takes to do this kind of stuff. You know, it just takes too much extra money to make this when you could do that.
Yeah, have it molded and just,
yeah,
I'm sure.
That's how things have changed.
So trivia on the banana flippers, 2 games, correct? Only 2 games.
Only 2. Time Warp
and
Disco
Fever.
Yep.
As a player, I cringe at the thought of that flipper that.
Yeah, they were just.
They were corny, gimmicky. I don't know.
Disco Fever was the first game to have it in 1978. Time Warp came out.
Should have been the last. Okay, we have everything we need to do this job. All right, we'll see everybody back inside.
Stay here. I'll be back.
Okay, we're back.
Intuit Giants automate deductions and expenses to save you time.
Stay here. I'll be back.
Okay, we're back in the shop. Here's the T2 playfield. It's out of a unit that we're restoring. Oh, really, it's a salvage job on a barely salvageable pin. You know, some pins you go out, local people call you, right? They say, you know, I want to get rid of this pin. Will you come, you know, take it away or give me $50 for it? And you show up, and one of 2 things is either wrong with it. Either it's in a barn, or it's got this sticker on it.
Yeah.
The local curse. And right from a glance you can see that it's just nothing but problems. Wrong screw here. There's a deck screw there. In fact, Ray, would you take that apron off of there? Nice. And of course, once it has this sticker on here, you can just get rid of that twat. I know that's not available, but we took care of that. Oh, and underneath here already we've got, what's this, deck screws here. Oh, the Lord. Okay, well, here we have some very nice looking, well, at least they say W.
Well, they left those on.
Yeah, it looks like they look original. Probably are.
They had no parts, I guess, Mike.
Okay, well, show us the meat and potato side here and what we're doing. Okay, if I'm in the field and I'm trying to evaluate a pin that I'm looking to buy, or even, of course, when you show up on a service call, you evaluate what you're looking at as well. What is it that you look at? You know, flippers is one of the first things that you look at after line cord, because it's an interface. It's the most direct interface between the player and the game.
Yeah, that's right. I look at the wiring and what was done solder-wise, and I don't know what was going on there, but they should have replaced the coil. Somebody should have anyway.